to A Well-Designed Business. My name is Luann Nigara, and I'm so glad you found this podcast. Together with my husband Vince and our partner Bill, we have grown our company WindowWorks from the ground up. So I know and I understand the challenges you face in running your interior design business. I also know that your talent alone isn't enough to ensure your success. So on this podcast, we talk about strategies and practical steps to help you grow your business. But make no mistake about it, we have our share of fun here too, mixed in with those aha moments that I love so much. This isn't fluff. Nobody has time for that. Whether you are a new interior designer or a seasoned designer, I am here to help you create and to manage the kind of interior design firm that you dream of. It's straight talk and it's action. Are you ready? Let's get started. Hi, welcome to A Well-Designed Business. Lisa Haude joins me today. As the lead designer and founder of Paradigm Design Group, Lisa has, over the last 15 years, built her firm into a hospitality design powerhouse with projects ranging from the Roosevelt Waldorf Astoria in New Orleans to the award-winning Portland Marriott Downtown to boutique hotels and numerous Hilton hotels across the United States. Lisa prides herself on their design versatility. In the interview today, Lisa goes through how she built her firm from ground zero to a firm with gross revenues over $40 to $50 million. Here is a big hint. And by the way, that's yearly gross revenues, okay? Now, here is a big, that's a big distinction. Here is a big hint. She did it the old-fashioned way, knocking on doors and calling contacts week after week after week. Relentless commitment. So I just want to say, if you are not experiencing the success that you envision for yourself, please look in the mirror. I know, tough medicine, but it's what it takes, all right? Lisa also discusses today how she attributes her early success and her continued success to her personal commitment to deliver exceptional projects every time. She plans to exceed expectations in every aspect of her business. And I think it'll be pretty apparent to you that she is a lady of her word, that she really does live and breathe this philosophy, and it really has been a major factor in her success. So I'm looking forward to having you meet her. Before that, I just want to give a thanks and a shout out to Article for sponsoring the show. I hope you know how important it is for us to have sponsors on the podcast. Sponsors for the podcast are like your pipeline of clients. If you don't have a pipeline of clients, then you're pretty much not going to have a business. So it's pretty much the same here. No sponsors, no podcast. Okay? So please be sure to open your account at Article by going to welldesign.article.com. And then you have to take the next important step. You want to go ahead and specify some of their beautifully styled mid-century furniture for your next project. And I'm just going to share with you, just last week, late on a Thursday, it was like after 6:30, 7 o'clock at night, I ordered a sofa bed for our son. And it was delivered on Saturday. Like Thursday, 6 o'clock, I'm ordering furniture. Saturday, I'm getting pictures from him saying, I love my new sofa bed. So, and I didn't say who I was. WindowWorks has a trade account with article.com. We just went in. I went in and ordered it, and it was so easy, so simple, and I can't believe that he got it in 2 days. So, go open your account at welldesign.article.com. All right, let me introduce you to Lisa Haude. Hi, Lisa. Thanks so much for joining me on A Well-Designed Business today.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Lisa, so Paradigm Design Group, this is a nice opportunity for us because we've had a few hospitality firms on the show at 500 plus interviews at this point. But few at the level of your firm, and I'm so excited to talk about some of the details on the way you run a firm of this size. So first of all, I want to just say what I've learned from you already is that your firm specializes in full service hotel design as one of the main aspects, but hotels that are specifically looking for a boutique feel and service and luxury element to it, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, I love that. But that I also learned that your background comes from this trifecta experience where you've spent time at high-end hospitality firms before opening your own. You've spent time working in architectural design firms, and you've spent time working in the hotel and hospitality industry on the inside on their design teams. And so that just seems to give you such a real leg up on being able to deliver a really super quality experience to your clients. Would you tell us a little bit about how that experience informs how you run your firm?
Sure. Yeah, so I've had some great experience. I'm not going to date myself, but starting out, in college, my internship, and even in the very beginning, I worked for a high-end designer and doing really high-end luxury type properties. And that was an awesome experience because it really taught me the level of detail required to do that size project. And what all that entailed, down to custom pieces and how to write the spec and, how to make sure you have it all documented properly in your drawings. And so there was, a lot of learning that happened on the job with that one. And switching over then to working for a hotel developer that literally went overnight from a handful of hotels to hundreds of hotels, taught me, oh my gosh, so much, because I then was learning how to design a property the way operations thinks it through, and what really works, what people actually do in these rooms to some extent, not necessarily how they damage them, but it's shocking when you go, how did they get that off the wall? I don't even know how that's possible. But it taught me so much. And again, just even the caliber of work that we were doing, the quantity that we were doing, taught me how to become very efficient and how to manage big projects, lots of projects, short lead times, working with vendors, how to negotiate with the vendors. Again, great learning experience that really probably created a great groundwork for me personally to understand this industry. And then later switching to an architectural firm, even though I was on the interior side, again, you're getting a little bit different perspective, because the way that the architect is viewing the hotel versus the way the owner is or interiors is a little bit different. So again, it created just such a great groundwork and a foundation for me, which ultimately, ended up creating a great groundwork for me when I started my company 19 years ago.
It's such a great
and I brought
thing.
all that to the table.
Yeah, I love it.
Yeah. And I brought all that to the table, and just, you use that every day. And sometimes I forget, even when I have younger staff members, when you're mentoring them, and to me, it's so second nature, and I have to stop and go, oh, wait, they don't know what that means. I have to slow down and explain this to them. But it certainly helps. It helps with owners because, you get it from a different perspective. You understand, there's no ego involved anymore. You have a design idea, you have a concept in mind, and it's all about, how do I get from point A to point B? I only have so much money to make this happen. How can I get this done creatively, in budget, on time, massive scale, et cetera. And I think that the foundation that I had, those learning blocks, the building blocks for me, helps make us, who we are today.
Yeah, no, I just, that's why I wanted to bring it out, because I just thought it was such a really fantastic way to launch your own firm, to have this view from all three sides. And I can
Mm-hmm.
see how it's helpful when you're working with the architects involved, with the hotel owners involved, and, you know, with your own design staff, as you said, teaching them and
Right.
mentoring them. So good, so good. So now I want to give everybody just a little bit of insight into the way your firm looks. So you are the principal, obviously. You have what you've described to me as your right hand and your left hand. You have Bhavini, who is your creative director and tell me her title.
Creative development director.
Right, creative development director. And then you have
Mm-hmm.
Amber, who is your creative director, senior designer. Okay. You
Yes.
have Jennifer, who is your operations director. And then
Yep.
you have a staff of 4 junior designers and junior designers, and you're actually going to be adding to that, which is exciting. So anybody listening in the that thinks they might want to work for this powerhouse, by the time we're done, you'll know what I mean. And so what I would love to do is, your projects, you know, your firm is in the gross revenues of upwards of $40-50 million. I mean, you're doing major hotel projects all across the country. And this seems to me a particular challenge. I mean, most of us as entrepreneurs, we go to sleep at night and we run through our day, our projects, our staff, our people, our clients, and we think, is everybody tucked in okay for the night? Can I just turn it off, be with my family, have my dinner, watch a TV show, and do it again tomorrow? But I've got to say, thinking about what you have to mentally review at the end of a day is daunting to me, to think about all the moving pieces on projects that are multiple millions of dollars each one, and the levels of, like you mentioned, the detail that has to be attended to so that they do come in on time and on budget. So give us a little bit about the workings of a project. So we've got a new project coming in. You've probably bid on it. You've earned the project, and you are looking at the, you know, new client across the table. And run us through how you decide who on your team is going to work on it, the process of the meetings, the design process, the deliverable process.
Okay. So everyone obviously is a little bit different, but we pretty much follow the same protocol on each one. We're really big about collaboration and being a collaborative studio in our firm. And with that being said, you know, when a new project comes in, we kind of figure out, you know, who's going to be working on it. And there's all different criteria that kind of determines who's on what, but it's going to be a team of people. And at some point in time, because we are a smaller firm, everyone will be touching it to some level. But we sit down and we talk about it. We research the property. We figure out, you know, what that design wants to be. What's that story that we want to tell? And we kind of work together. There's usually 3 or 4 of us working together on creating that story. And we'll do a lot of different, you know, in-person meetings with each other, or we'll do conference calls, or lots of instant messaging, or even emails back and forth. It just depends on what all our schedules look like for the weeks. And we'll create that first storyboard that goes across. And once that board's approved, then we start to move into the fun stuff, which is, you know, picking all the finishes and fabrics and whatever. And I love it when our entire team can just go spend a couple hours in the library and just start pulling stuff, because 1, many hands make light of work, and 2, lots of great ideas come out because everyone has a different perspective. You know, again, we have a team from young junior designers that are, you know, fairly new out of school, even an intern might be in that mix, to seasoned designers who've been doing this for, you know, over 12, 13, 14 years. And so we all have different things we bring to the table, and it's a great way to really come up with a really awesome design. And so we all kind of will pull stuff for a couple hours, and then it'll kind of regroup back to that core who's been assigned to the project. And then we start kind of skinning it down on what it looks like and what it wants to be, and assigning what goes where, and building that design and that entire presentation. So that's kind of the fun part of it. And then then the nitty gritty hits, and you got to do all the documentation. So that's when it gets kind of divided up, and that's where, Amber and Bhavini really, really shine. They each take their little integral part of the projects. Bhavini kind of spearheads them from the architectural side and the technical side, and making sure that they're setting up, our cartoon sets correctly and our drawings correctly, and things are being coordinated properly with the appropriate teams, and just really keeping us on track technically. And then Amber does a fantastic job in, helping mentor the team and keeping them on track with the schedules, and, being that person in the office with them that can help, answer some of those questions on the fly and get some of that stuff done. And we all get together at the end. I mean, I'll even sit there and write specs with them if I need to. Just because, we all work together to make it happen. And there is a lot of details. We have typically one or two people that are kind of the lead on the project, and they're kind of the master gatekeeper of all the running list of to-dos and changes and things happening. But, again, with weekly meetings, we all are in the loop on what's happening, so that if that person is out or traveling, then somebody else can jump in and help out when something pops up along the way.
Okay. So
it's kind of a short, skinny version of that.
Yeah. I mean, believe me, I know there's a lot, lot of extra that's happening, but it's a nice timeline to see it through. But how about the actual details of the accountability? So for instance, simple things go through my mind, only because I have to tell you, Lisa, again, the quantity of details that must be attended to on a weekly basis just my brain is overwhelmed at it. So when I think about little tiny things that on one hand are like, really, that's what you're on your mind, Luann? But on the other hand, I know if the ball is dropped, the domino effect is real. So something as simple as you've all gone into the library, you've had a great session pulling things, and then you said now the ones that have been tasked with sort of being the project leads are going to go back and create the actual design proposal, right? The final design board or whatever. Like, what's the accountability on that? So just something simple like, okay, we left the library at 2:00 on Tuesday, and how do you know if the time has been put in their schedule to execute that, and what is the mechanism for them to say to you, yes, it's Thursday at 10:00, it's done, it's 2 weeks from Thursday, it's done, like little things like that. So you're not sitting at the baseball field going, oh my God, did that design board ever get done? You know what I mean?
Yes, I hear you. So Amber is really awesome at programming everyone's overall schedule, making sure the milestone dates are all being kept. We have kind of a master plan, because again, we have multiple projects going all different phases. So we've got, a master calendar. We have our weekly meetings. We have, we've got internal milestone dates of when things have to be met. We have different things set at different times. So for example, if we're, working on the drawing set, we know that certain elements of the drawings have to be at certain points completion for review by Bhavini and myself and Amber at certain dates. So if our deadline to the client is 8 weeks out, we're going to have internal deadlines at 2, 4, 6, and then final at 8. So that way we are making sure things are getting ticked off the way that they need to be, that things are being worked through. So things are not just being thrown at you at the 10th hour of like, oh, wait, we totally forgot to design the bar and we need to figure this out. And then we have checklists. We have like internal checklists of, for each phase of the project, like you must have these types of things completed for each phase. So then that way too, we're also able to pretty much stay on track with what needs to happen and when it needs to happen, which helps a lot as well. So that way we can, make sure we're getting all the things ticked off.
I like that.
The
I
list.
like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. No. Okay. So I can visualize it now. So there is, and that is what I was after. There is, I'm sure by after, 19 years of doing, it's 19 years you're in business now, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. After 19 years of being in business, that when you say that you have the timeline, the milestones planned out, internal and external deadlines, dates that are planned out, I'm sure there is, Amber takes a look and says, okay, this is a project that includes, the lobby, the amenities area, and 200 guest rooms. So this is typically, what has to happen on these things. Like there's probably almost templates, right? For
Correct.
types of projects, but based on scale and budget and, venue and all of that stuff. And then she goes based on all the past work experience and plugs it in. And then you're all on board. And because that's what I said. I'm like, if you had like 5, several $1 million projects happening at one time. Like I said, you're a mother, you've got a little kid. It's like, how do you like, you know what I mean?
Yes.
And so
yep.
I just knew that there had to be accountability that was at a very stringent level. And
yes.
So I like that. Okay. So, and I can visualize that, the project
yep.
planner, right?
Yep. And I would say that pretty much everyone that works for me, and I'm myself included, we're pretty detail oriented people. So we like structure. We like to have,
no cowboys
a plan
on your
in
team.
place. Right. I mean, we don't really have cowboys in there. We like to have, and everyone has accountability for what they're doing. And, we've started implementing after action reports, if, Jennifer comes from a military background, so it's great because she's given us some great ideas. But one of it is like after each phase of the project, like sometimes a project was a little bumpy on one particular phase. So let's talk about it. What happened? Where was the breakdown? Did we have a breakdown in communication? Did we have a breakdown in timeline? Did we not give you enough time to do what you needed to do so that we can adjust before we get too far down the mix or before you go crazy and go, I can't keep doing this. So, we started doing that too, which just, again, allows that open communication with everybody, which is so important. And, again, there's always still room for improvement. I think everyone always needs that. We all need that constructive criticism, and we all need to constantly kind of try to keep working more efficiently and smarter, not harder. But, for the most part, we work really hard to maintain that and make that happen.
I love the, I call it the autopsy of the project. I love the review of the project afterwards. And there's, the obvious reason to love the review of the project is to identify the places where you dropped a ball, or it got a little bumpy, or it got tense, or things went off the rails, God forbid, right? But the other reason why I love it is because it is a safe place. It is specifically designed for constructive feedback. So instead of somebody going through the process with their team member and thinking, my goodness, every time we get to this part of the project, like they always drop the ball, and that ball, I have to pick it up, and it's annoying. And what happens is in the moment, it's very hard to bring that up because tension is already high, right? And then what happens is the project is over and everything is happy. And so it's sort of like, well, am I going to bring up how 3 months ago that, they keep making this mistake and it's creating chaos? And of course, as grownups and as full people that have accountability to our positions, we do have to do that. But the mechanism of the autopsy, especially in a bigger team, takes and by the way, I want to go back and say how you always do this wrong. Like, right? It's like, right? It's just like, can I ask for a suggestion on this part of the project? I find that this is your challenge in this part of the project. This is my challenge in this part of the project, or my objective and your objective. And sometimes I feel that we are maybe not working in concert. What can we, because now it's not, you're not in the height of it, and everybody can see clearly that the point is to grow and to make everybody's life better, right?
Right. And sometimes that constructive criticism could even come back to me as like, well, Lisa, you were the problem because you weren't available. So it caused a problem because we weren't able to meet these deadlines or whatever. So yeah, I mean, I think it's a great place, and I always open it with, this is an open table,
right?
Speak freely, and nothing is being held against anybody, because this is the only way we're going to grow and get better, is if we are openly discussing, just like you would in your own family, you're openly discussing the challenges at the table and how do we make it better. And, I will say I had a mentor at one point in time on the management side when I first started the company, and he would tell me often, you're the one steering the ship. And if you are steering it with a chaotic brain, it's going to be chaotic.
Exactly.
If you add structure to it, and if you, again, the buck stops at you, ultimately, if there was a failure in it, it was your fault, because you're the one in charge of the ship. And so even though that person dropped the ball, or some other person didn't draw something correctly or whatever, it's still my fault, because I didn't catch it, or I didn't see it, or I wasn't open, or I didn't hear them saying I have a problem. So again, I always tell my team, look, this is open table. This is the ability for us all to speak freely. This is not me just sitting here saying you did this wrong.
Right. 100%.
And I think that is key into a company and the efficiency of a project. Now, we all know there's projects that you're just going to have snake bit from the day you started it. And it's like they were built on the Indian burial ground. It just, they have their problems, and we all have them. Yes. They are there, and you are crazy if you're going to say that doesn't happen.
Right.
And there are times when you're especially in the trenches on those that are so difficult to maintain that sanity of like, how am I going to get through this? But again, it's putting that ego to the side and just trying to find humor in it and keep going. Yes. And again, there are some days that you're just like, wow, this is so challenging, but
no, it's so true. It's so true. I would call it Murphy's Law. Like we can push through 100 projects in WindowWorks in a month, and 99 of them can go anywhere from, a 7 to a 10, right? And there's just seems like that one project, it's like, something comes in wrong the first time, then you reorder it and it comes in wrong a second time, then you reorder it and you open it and it's broken, and then you reorder it and UPS stepped on it, and you're just like, sweet Jesus, like, can we just get this blinded the right way? You know what I mean? Yep. And you're like telling the client every Wednesday, we just recently, and at one point you're like, I know, I wouldn't believe me either, but it's true. That's the point.
That's right. It's so frustrating, and it's so hard, and it's so draining, especially, projects that we're working on are long.
I can't even
projects, 18, 24, 36 months, So you've got like, I'm 2 years pregnant with this disaster and I'm ready for it to die.
Oh my God. It's like you could, that's a funny thing to think about that. You could, as a woman principal, you could get pregnant, deliver, put a kid in like kindergarten practically.
Yes. So it has its moments for sure. And like I said, when you're in the trenches, it's really, really hard to find that humor. And there are some days when I'm just like, today is one of those days.
I know.
We're just going to call it what it is.
I know. My mother and father owned like small restaurants, luncheonettes and things, short order cooking, like breakfast, eggs, hamburgers, things like that. And very, very difficult to do. My dad was an excellent short order cook. I used to watch him make 16 breakfasts at the same time. Like I'm sorry, you get 16 plates of eggs all done the right way at the same time with the toast ready, the hash browns ready. It's insanity. Like, you know what I mean? But I remember my big line at WindowWorks when things would really go wrong and we'd be like, oh my goodness, how is this? And I would say, sure, Luann, making hamburgers you're too good for that. Didn't want to do that. No, you had to make custom window treatments, It's like, because as hard as it was to do what my parents did, if the eggs were wrong, you threw them in the garbage 3 minutes later, you had new eggs, you know what I'm saying?
Right. Right.
It wasn't like 6 weeks or 6 months, or in your case, years. So
Yep.
now it's a lot of pressure, and I'm really focusing on the depth of what it is to run not just a multi-million-dollar firm, but like I said, a several million. So now talk to us a little bit about the other thing that I am aware of from speaking with you is that many of your big hospitality clients have been with you for almost your entire firm, and if not several years, more than 10 years, a lot of them. How, if someone out there is, just launching their hospitality firm and, has come from a great background similar to yours, working for others, what would you say as far as, can you recall back any particular advice or tips that help you land some of these? Now, landing and keeping a nice hospitality account are two different things. So let's first talk about the landing of a hospitality account. Anything come to mind, Lisa?
It's a lot of hard work and perseverance for sure. The hardest part is getting that first project, really, because when you first go out on your own, at least this is what I experienced. I mean, I started literally, my firm was started, 10 days before 9/11, and 9/11 hits, and we all know what happened to the industry then. So trying to break in was really, really challenging. People were not excited just to try to give you a try, like, well, you're just, who are you and
right.
why are you here, kind of a thing.
Let me just trust you with my millions of dollars.
Yeah, let me just trust you with this project. But I was very fortunate. I was able to land my first project, my first client. They gave me a really small project, and I just knocked it out of the park. And after that, it was, I just had that mentality of, I'm not going to give up. I'm going to do an amazing job. And I was always the overachiever, especially in college. If somebody said, give me 3 things, I would give you 7. So I think it was just, earning their trust, earning their respect, and then delivering that product. And if it was due at 5:00 on Friday, I had it in your inbox at 4:00 on Friday, or whatever it was. I just made sure I did what I needed to do to make it happen. And that's still the mentality I have today. And always, wanting to deliver exceptional product and, and going above and beyond. I have a strong ethic of, the customer is right, and we will do what we can to make it right, and just do a really great job for you. Now, do we do it perfectly every time? No. And over the years, have we done it perfectly every time? No. But
it's an unreasonable expectation. It's not even,
right.
You're a human being,
Right.
So,
but if we do mess up, it's owning up to that too, and saying, look, hey, we didn't do great on this one. I'm really sorry, and this is how we are going to do better on the next. And again, it's been great because we've consistently had some really, really great clients. Word of mouth has then led to other great clients. And with every client that comes through the door, we treat them all the same. It's what can we do for you? How can we help you? How can we make this great? And, oh, by the way, we want to have fun while we're doing it. So, have a smile on our face and keep going. And the other thing too, I'm really big on, we're not going to have an ego about it. We're not going to be the designer that's going to be like, well, it's my way or the highway kind of attitude, because that doesn't work well for anybody. It's, at the end of the day, we're all trying to get to the end result that's the same. For me, I'm happiest when that client walks away and says, wow, this is amazing. Like I envisioned it was going to be great, but I didn't think it was going to be this great. You've exceeded my expectations. And that to me is the best outcome of all. And, we work really, really hard to make that happen on every single job.
Well, so here's the thing. I hear you. I do hear you, Lisa. And I just want to stress that doing an exceptional job at the way you're describing it is not easy. It takes an actual commitment to yourself first. As you said, you're a high achiever and you have high expectations of yourself. And it should not be underestimated that it should not be underestimated that your frame of mind is, if something is due at 5:00 on Friday, I deliver it by 4:00 on Friday. That is an extra layer. And that's why I'm bringing it out and pointing it out, because, delivering it at 5:00 on Friday is within the agreement. But you're looking to exceed. And that is the difference that separates a firm that, as I said a few moments ago, not only earns a new account, but maintains that account over their 19 years in business. Because when you make that commitment to yourself and you lead that and demonstrate that with your team and you deliver that to your client, that is noticed. And of course, as entrepreneurs, we all know that, things are going to go wrong. Mistakes are going to happen, but you get a whole lot more leeway from your staff, from your vendors, from your clients, if they know that you literally actually do strive to deliver a game every time. And so what happens is, it's not like, well, that's sort of typical. Like 5:00 is 5:30 and Monday is Tuesday. And so now, of course, that ball is dropped. So there's a difference. Like you said, you earn their respect and you maintain it by actually delivering a higher level of service. I do a seminar at the IWCE called The Art of the Luxury Sale. And it's so much a part of that high-end client luxury service thing. There's no compromise. You have to do what you are supposed to do, when you are supposed to do, how you were supposed to do it. No, like, yeah, but like, it just doesn't work. It doesn't, because there is so much competition for that level of business, and that level of client can go anywhere. They're not strapped by, well, I don't have a budget to hire this one or that. They're making a choice, and they've worked very hard to be that level of client themselves, building their business, building their income, building their firm. And so when they go to do business, they want to do business that have the same ideals and values that they have, right?
Right. And again, I'm not going to say every time is perfect, because it's not. And I'm not going to say that we,
that's an impossible expectation.
Sometimes there's times, if we said it's going to be 5, it might be 6. So
but you get the leeway because it happens 1 out of 20 times, not 19 out of 20 times. You see what I'm saying? That's the thing. It's real life. There's humans involved. Judith Neary says it all the time. There's humans involved. Stuff's going to happen, but it's what is the bar that you strive for. And you, like I said, look, I'm in business going almost 40 years. You don't think that there hasn't been times when I've had to look at somebody in the eyeballs and say, I am so sorry. I dropped the ball. You know what I mean? Yep. It happens. Yep. But I often, if somebody loses their stuff on me about it, after I let them have their say and after I apologize again and own it again, if it's really going to be pushed to the limit, the one thing that I do fall back on is, look, you've been doing business with me how many years? Like, do I get nothing for all the times that we made it look easy, all the times that we delivered without any issue, without any problem, without anything that you didn't even notice it? You know what I'm saying? Like, and I've had them look and go, okay, yeah, you're right. I'm like, okay, so here's the plan to fix it. Don't you worry. We're on top of it, right? But you do need to have that credibility of that track record of delivering so that you can lean on it and remind them of it if you need to, right?
Right. Yeah. And I'm very fortunate that, I've learned over the years with a child, you have to have a village, right? And so I am extremely fortunate that I have an amazing village of people that work with me that I am so proud to call my coworkers. Yes. And they push me really hard to strive to always do better. And because I want to have a really great firm, I want to have that amazing reputation so that we are around and they can be employed and they are excited about coming to work and working for Paradigm and doing the work that we do. So, again, it all comes full circle. And I think that it pushes me, my daughter pushes me really hard because I, want to obviously show a great working mama for her, but my team does too, because, they're all just really great people. And, I'm honored to be working with them every day.
That's awesome. That's awesome. I'm sure they feel that and appreciate that and value that. It's terrific. I have a question for you. So I understand that there was one nugget of advice in there that you shared, and I don't know if you realized it or not, but the first project you took was a smaller project, and you have to not look and say, oh, really wanted 500 rooms. You know what I'm saying? It's like, right. Okay, I'll take this one. But so the one observation is to understand that you've got to start somewhere, and for a residential designer, it's like starting with somebody's guest room before you start with the master bedroom, right? Or it's starting with the whole renovation, right? And the second is to actually absolutely give it the 110% as if it is the multi-million-dollar project that you ultimately hope to do one day, and to knock it out of the park, as you said. Where would you recommend that a young hospitality firm looking to break into the industry go and start to build their network to possibly make that connection that might turn into that first opportunity?
It's a great question. When I very, very first started the business, I did a lot of that traditional marketing, lots of mass mailings, the way that we all did it. Nowadays it's all just junk mail that we throw in the trash. But initially, that's how I started. I did postcards, and when I finished a project, I had a postcard that had the picture of the project and a quick little description of what it was and my contact information. And I would send hundreds of those out in the mail. And I printed them on my printer at home because I couldn't afford to take it to Kinko's. And I would work at 3 a.m. and printing those little guys out. So, it was back to basics of marketing. I couldn't afford to go to the different trade shows and all of that. I couldn't afford it. So I didn't do it. I did a lot of cold calling. I did, like I said, these mass mailings. I would jokingly say that, if I finally got a person, I had a weekly call. I had a group of people. I just kept going through an Outlook and just kept calling. And if someone would say, well, you know what, you can come to my office and meet me, if you're in town, I'd be like, sure, I'll be in town. No problem. I've got another meeting set up. I can certainly swing by, even though I didn't have a meeting set up in Memphis. I drove myself to Memphis and was there and made a day trip out of it.
Wow.
So, I did what it took to make it happen, because I was determined to make it happen. Today, marketing is a little bit different. You're still doing it the same way to some extent, but it's a little bit different from a standpoint of we're not sending it in mail that's going into the traditional mailbox. You're doing social media marketing. You're doing, LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook posts. You're doing emails, blast emails, etc. But you're still following the basic principles of marketing to some extent. And I think that's the core you have to keep in mind. I think it's being accessible. It's thinking outside that box a little bit. Part of how Paradigm got its name to begin with was, what is it that was the mission statement of who this design company was going to be? And it was thinking outside the box. How are we going to do things differently? Which is thus the description of Paradigm. And today it has evolved into a studio of collaboration, because it's not just party of one, it's party of many, that works for the firm. And so we've evolved over time, and just like marketing has evolved over time, but the principles are still there. The core is still there, and the basics are still there. And so that's kind of the thought process I follow today. Because again, when I think of who is the core of who this company is and what is that mission statement and who it is that we are and why we're doing what we're doing, that has not changed. I maybe have lost sight of it a little bit here and there over the years if things has, ebbed and flowed and changed. But the core is there. And what I keep telling my team today, as we're evolving into 2020 with our new company and our new name and all of that, we are still the same people. We're just doing it better, smarter, more efficiently, and having more fun doing it.
I have to tell you, there's so much in there that you said, and I'm going to go zero right back in on the calling everybody, taking a meeting in Memphis when you were in Chicago?
I was in Houston. And yeah.
Okay. I mean, I don't know. What is that? Hours? Yeah. Is that a day trip back and forth?
It's a very long day trip. Yes.
Yeah.
And I drove, and my car couldn't even handle driving that. And so we rented a car and drove and just got there. And
my thing for me is that, I am never the person that says, oh, the younger generation, they, this, that, or the other thing. I just don't ascribe to that, because you know what? I always say, really, because I remember my grandfather thought the Beatles were stupid, right? So every younger generation, has a thing that's different. So I never, people will say to me, oh, I don't think millennials, work hard, or I don't think this. I think that people are people, and you either have a motor, you don't have a motor, you have a work ethic, you don't have a work ethic, you're driven to do something, you're not, you're easygoing, you aren't, whatever, okay? But there is something that I do find that needs to be reminded, that companies that are super successful rarely happened because they were lucky. And you going out and you calling and you taking the time to make a postcard on a completed project and then sending it out to dozens of places and making the copies at home and not having the money for Kinko's, okay? And then, yes, hi, I'm in Houston. Let me call you for this. And you're in Memphis. Yeah, I'm going to be in town. I'm around the corner. Don't worry. I mean, this is the type of thing that builds a company. I've said the story often on the podcast. When we started Window Works, I took a map of the neighboring area to our business is Short Hills, which is one of the highest demographic per capita income towns in the country. And I literally highlighted, I would go out running in the morning. Back then you could put a door knocker on somebody's door. Now it's illegal to do it, right? But I would run. I would do my 5-mile run in the morning, and I would run up and down every street, up and down their driveway, and put the door knocker on their front door. And I would do my morning run. I would go back home, take a shower, and then go to the showroom and wait for the darn phone to ring and be like, okay, great. You know what I mean? And I literally, week after week after week, highlighted the streets that I completed. I still have the map. I've saved it. And so the thing is, and I remember Meryl Santopietro, she was on the show 2.5, 3 years ago. She was a successful interior designer in Rhode Island, and life was changing for her. She wanted to develop a business in New York City. She wasn't 20 years old. She was in her 40s or 50s. And she said, you know what? I want to do this. And what did she do? She literally sat here on the show and told us how that she walked in and out of the luxury high rises that were under construction in Manhattan, talked to the concierge, talked to the property developers, talked to the real estate salesman, boots on the ground, and said, you know what? You're doing a build-up now, and I'm sure you got a lot of details that you got to take care of, because every single homeowner that's coming in here is probably buying, from all different parts of the country, and you've got to rope them in on the kitchen selections and this and that. How about you recommend me, and I will deliver you your design plan on time when you need it, so your project stays on time and on budget. I mean, it's the creative things that you have to do, right, Lisa? I mean, I love it.
Yep. And then, on the flip side, while you're waiting for those phone calls to ring, you still have to have money to somewhat live. Nothing was beneath me. I mean, I connected with an architect and I said, I don't care. Give me your color boards. I'll make color boards for you. Whatever you need, I will do it, because I need money to be able to pay for groceries this week. And So I would go every week to his office and I would pick up his stack of projects that needed color boards, because that's when we still physically made the heavy framed color boards. Now it's all digitally.
Right.
But, we physically made them, and I would sit there and I would work till 3, 4, 5 in the morning, gluing things on and burning my fingers with the glue gun and you name it, I did it.
It's
and
crazy.
I was at Walmart at all hours of the day because my glue gun blew up, or my dog would be jumping over the boards because my apartment was so tiny that, my entire floor would be covered and you couldn't even walk through. It was like a landmines going through there. So again, it's thinking outside that box of how do I make this work? How does this happen?
Right.
And even today, still remembering those roots and knowing that, I feel very fortunate. I feel very blessed, but I don't take it for granted. I know that I still have to work really hard every day to continue to do what I need to do. And I think that especially if you've had nothing handed to you and you've had to work really, really hard to get where you are, I think that you appreciate it more too. And you understand what it entails. And again, like I said, I hope that as a mentor, I believe very strongly in that. And a mentor is many things, but for my child, for young college kids or high school kids that I've mentored, that they see it too. Nothing is handed to you. It's hard work. You have to work really hard to get where you are. And there's nothing wrong with if you don't want to do that. Not everybody's going to be the entrepreneur.
Right. We all need amazing rock stars to work for us and do what they do best. If you don't want to rainmake, don't rainmake. It's okay. Right? Right. But if you want to be an entrepreneur, you got to rainmake.
Yeah. Right. My daughter is like, I don't know that I want to do it. You do, mommy, because you work a lot of hours. But at the same time, she's like, but I do see that, I do have to work hard. And I always tell her, well, school is your job right now. So I expect you to do well. And so she knows that she has to work really hard to get that A in math or that A in Spanish or whatever it is. It's not just handed to you. So, her understanding that's huge.
Right.
But, and again, not everybody wants to be the entrepreneur. And I think it takes a different, I don't know, I think you're just wired a little differently if you have that mindset in you, but the same principles are there. Like, cause even if you're going to work for a company, you still have to know that you're not just going to show up and get a paycheck. I mean, you're going to work, you're going to do your job.
That's right. To that point, Lisa, just give me a few minutes on when you go to look to hire one of those junior designers that is going to come into your firm. Just give us a few minutes on the type of background and skills that you expect them to walk through the door with.
So the key today is you have to be proficient in your computer skills. So we use AutoCAD. So I expect them to know AutoCAD and to be very proficient in it. They don't need to have to be the super duper expert, but they need to know how to do it and work through it and know the shortcuts and be good at it. Photoshop is excellent. SketchUp is excellent. We use InDesign for our presentation, so they should know that. And if they don't, that's an easy one to learn. Basic communication skills are important, being able to write well your emails and what have you, because nor Amber nor Bavini have time to proofread everybody's work before it goes out the door, when you're sending an email. But we expect you to be able to, communicate efficiently and effectively. The other thing I would say is key for us is you have to be very organized and detail oriented and be able to multitask. Because again, when you're working on this type of project, you have to be well organized yourself. You have to have a pretty good way to efficiently remember all those tiny little things that need to be done and how they need to be done and get done efficiently and quickly and again on time. So those are kind of the key components. Again, creativity is great. You have to have a good eye and be willing to learn. And I think the other thing, people that work well for us are those that appreciate life and work-life balance, but at the same time know that there's going to be times you're going to have to pull that bootstraps up and just work, right? I mean,
right.
you just have to. And then, again, I'm really fortunate that all of my team is very creative, which is great. And I think that's important, that is all fabulous for us, because we all have creative minds, and how do we all mesh and work together on that? So that's kind of like the perfect employee, and I'm lucky that I have those employees.
I
but
love
I'm looking
it
for some more. So, if you fit that criteria, we'd love to have you in Houston.
Yes. I mean, you're hiring. So, I mean, it's nice to know. And the point of it is, what's interesting is that it's all qualities that, there's one aspect that really technically is to the creative, right? But the other are other things that you bring to the table. Like you're making it, I guess there's an inherent assumption that the creativity and the design talent is kind of in there, whether it needs to be developed or nurtured or, taught a little bit more, but it's the other things that they've got to walk through the door with. It's their skills got to be sharp, and the skills, like you said, computer and communication. And I'm 100% on that. I do multiple writing tests for anybody that I hire, and they have to do it in my presence on my laptop, and I turn the Wi-Fi off. Because I've been burned by people who have sent me emails in the interview process that I later found out had to have been Googled or done by other people, because once they started working for me, couldn't put 3 words in the English language together. And I was like, oh, sweet Jesus, is that a communication that just left our company? Like, oh my gosh, you know what I mean? And so, I do multiple in-person things during the interview process where if you can't think on your feet and you can't write a sentence, I'm going to know it before we get to the second interview. So, in other words, there will not be a second interview. So, I love it. I think it's awesome. Lisa, I know that there are a dozen places that we probably didn't touch on, but I do think that we pulled back the curtain just a tiny bit on the hospitality world and the way a big firm like yours runs. And I really do appreciate that you shared your time with us and your expertise with us. And I think you've given some newer hospitality entrepreneurs out there some things to think about and to strive for. So thanks so much for joining us today.
Well, thank you for having me. Hopefully I can come back soon and we can chat some more.
Definitely.
But thanks for having me today.
I mean, remarkable business lady, wouldn't you say? And seriously, if you're looking to work in the hospitality field and you live in the Houston area, I'd say definitely apply to work in her firm. As a matter of fact, I think I might even say she's worth moving to Houston to work for. I mean, this is exactly the type of early training that just makes such a difference. And, I want you to remember that Lisa herself discussed in the beginning of the episode her extensive work experience that she had working for others before she launched her own firm. This cannot be underestimated, all right? And if you kind of miss that, go back and listen to the 6-8 minutes of the episode. And she goes through the 3 different types of firms that she worked for, the types of things that she learned by working at each of those firms, and how that brought that level of professionalism and really informed her success when she ultimately opened Paradigm. Okay. And I also mentioned Meryl Santopietro. She was episode number 40. We've had her and others, just like Lisa, who specifically described those early years of doing anything and everything to get their business off the ground. Off the top of my head, I recall Mikkel Welch, Corey Damon Jenkins, Claire Jefford, and Vanessa DeLeon. Each of these guests shared those similar bootstrapping stories, okay? So if you need some mojo, or if you need a little boot in the butt, then go listen to these specific shows, okay? The episode numbers will all be in the show notes, all right? The truth is, it's no joke building a business. I mean, it takes commitment, it takes grit, it takes ingenuity, and as Lisa said, it takes thinking out of the box, okay? So, you can learn it by trial and error. You can. Many of us have, by the way, but you can also learn from others, and you can be mentored, and you can learn the ropes, okay? Both are possible. Just decide which is for you, all right? Now, big announcement. Finally announcing the 4th birthday party for the podcast. This year it will be at Kravitz's new workspace at 200 Lexington, New York, okay? We're going to have the party a little later this year. I have a grandbaby coming in February, so we can't be planning a birthday party in February. So we're going to have the party March 19th, 2020 at 5:30 p.m., okay? You can go to Eventbrite and search a well-designed business. You can go to the events page on my website. And the thing is, Kravitz Inc. and 200 Lex are hosting the event for us, okay? But you do have to RSVP so that they know how much wine to have. Let's be serious, okay? So I would love for you to come and join us. If you have not seen 200 Lex, if you have not been to this building yet, and especially if you've not been to Kravitz's new workspace, I mean, this alone is worth the time and the trip, but then add to it being together and having the opportunity to meet so many of the guests from the show and maybe asking them some specific questions about their particular episodes, okay? So it's always a fun party. We have an excellent time. It's 5:30 on March 19th, 2020, okay? I hope to meet you there. Now, one more thing before I go. I want to thank those of you who are leaving reviews for my books on Amazon. I do go to Amazon every week and I read the reviews, and I'm so grateful that you take the time to do it. I really, really am. And I also really love it when you call out a specific co-author in the second book, A Well-Designed Business, The Power Talk Friday Experts. It's such a treat for me to know that you found value from their expertise. And I really know that they appreciate it when you call out them specifically too. So if you have read either book and you have enjoyed it and you've learned a lesson, had an aha moment, and you haven't been to Amazon to review them yet, I would be grateful. And as I said, so would my co-authors. It's really a special treat to see when somebody puts in writing something that you did or said that helped, you. So don't underestimate how much it means to all of us, okay? All righty. That is the show for today, all right? I thank you so much for joining me. It is my great pleasure that you do that, and I hope that you have a great day, and I hope that you decide to be excellent. Thank you so much for joining me again today. This podcast is a production of WindowWorks, your resource for custom window treatments and awnings. To learn how we can help you on your next interior design project, go to www.windowworks-nj.com. And if you're interested in working with me on your business, either through masterminds or one-on-one coaching, or you want to know how to get my book, The Making of a Well-Designed Business, or you just want to know what's going on in the podcast land and where I'm going to be, all of that is found at luannigara.com. Thank you so much. Have an excellent day.